The message arrived at 8:14 in the morning. I almost ignored it because I thought it was just another family group chat notification. But when I opened it, I saw my sister's words staring back at me. "Wire me $7,200 today. It's for my daughter's sweet 16. Don't make this difficult." Attached were pictures of an expensive venue, a designer dress, and a $700 cake she had already ordered. For a few seconds, I just sat there, wondering when my family stopped asking for help and started demanding sacrifices. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was the message my father sent 10 minutes later: "If you don't pay, don't expect us to treat you like family anymore." They thought guilt would make me open my wallet. They never imagined that one phone call that night would change everything about their perfect celebration. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a marketing coordinator in Denver, Colorado. For most of my life, I was the person in my family everyone called when something went wrong. If someone needed advice, help with a bill, or a last-minute favor, my phone was always the first one to ring. I used to believe that was because they trusted me. I thought being the reliable one meant I was valued. But over time, I started noticing something painful. My family didn't just appreciate my kindness. They depended on it. My younger sister, Rachel, was always the center of attention. She was the daughter everyone celebrated, the one my parents protected from every struggle. Growing up, I never hated her for that. She was my sister, and I loved her. Whenever she needed something, I tried to be there. When she moved into her first apartment, I helped her buy furniture. When she was short on money, I covered expenses without making her feel embarrassed. When she had problems, I was the person who listened, but slowly, helping became an expectation. Nobody asked, "Can you help?" anymore. They started saying things like, "You'll handle it." And I didn't realize it then, but every time I said yes, I was teaching them that my sacrifices mattered less than their comfort. But this time, when my sister sent that message asking for $7,200, something inside me finally realized I wasn't being loved. I was being used. The message from Rachel arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was sitting at my kitchen table, drinking coffee before work. At first, I thought it was just another family update. Maybe a picture of my niece, maybe a question about dinner plans, but when I opened it, my stomach tightened. It wasn't a question. It was a demand. "Wire me $7,200 today. It's for Lily's sweet 16. Don't make this difficult." Below the message were several pictures. A beautiful event venue with crystal decorations. A designer dress laid across a bed. A giant cake with custom details that probably cost more than some people's monthly rent. I stared at my phone, confused. Not because I couldn't understand wanting a special birthday for her daughter, but because Rachel had never once asked if I was comfortable paying for it. She had already decided. When I replied, "Rachel, I'm happy to celebrate Lily, but I can't just send thousands of dollars for a party I didn't plan," she responded almost immediately, "You always make everything about yourself. It's your niece's birthday. Family helps family." Before I could answer, another message appeared. It was from my father. "Your sister shouldn't have to beg you. If you refuse to help, maybe you need to rethink what family means." I read that sentence over and over, because suddenly, I understood this wasn't about a sweet 16. It was about whether I would finally stop letting them decide my worth based on how much I was willing to give. I placed my phone on the table and just sat there in silence. For years, I had convinced myself that saying yes made me a good daughter and a good sister. I thought if I kept showing up, eventually they would notice. Eventually they would appreciate me. Eventually they would see that I wasn't just the person they called when they needed something. But that moment, looking at my father's message, I started remembering all the other times I had been expected to sacrifice. I remembered paying for Rachel's car repair when she was struggling. I remembered covering family dinners because my parents said money was tight. I remembered missing opportunities because I was too busy fixing problems that were never mine to carry. And the painful part was not the money. It was realizing that nobody ever asked what those sacrifices cost me. A few minutes later, Rachel called. "You're really going to do this?" she said. "You're making Lily's birthday stressful because you're being selfish." I took a deep breath and asked, "Rachel, when did my love become something you could demand?" There was silence. Then she said the words I will never forget. "Maybe you're not the person we thought you were." That sentence hurt, but strangely, it also freed me, because for the first time, I stopped trying to prove that I was enough. I made a decision that night. I was done being my family's emergency fund. I was done confusing being needed with being loved. And they had no idea what I was about to do next. That night, I sat on my couch staring at the event details Rachel had sent me: the venue, the decorations, the expensive dress, the cake. Everything looked beautiful, but now I saw it differently. I wasn't looking at my niece's birthday anymore. I was looking at a celebration that had been built on an assumption that I would quietly pay for everything, and that was the Moment I realized something important. Rachel had already spent the money in her mind before I ever agreed to give it. I picked up my phone and made one call. The venue manager answered, and I calmly explained the situation. I told her that my name had been used as the person responsible for payment, but I had never approved the final arrangements or agreed to cover the costs. She checked the records and confirmed something I suspected. My sister had listed me as the financial contact because she assumed I would eventually give in. I asked one simple question: can you remove me from the payment responsibility? The answer was yes. So I did. I didn't cancel my niece's birthday because I wanted to hurt anyone. I simply removed myself from a commitment I never made. The next morning, at exactly 7:30, my phone started exploding with notifications. First Rachel called, then my father, then my mother, but this time, nobody was demanding money. They were panicking because the party they had planned around my generosity was falling apart. And for the first time, they had to deal with the consequences of their own choices. When I finally answered Rachel's call, I expected anger. I expected accusations, but even I was surprised by how quickly the conversation turned into blame. Do you realize what you've done? She shouted. You embarrassed us. Everyone knows the party might have to be changed because of you. I sat there quietly, listening to her describe the consequences of a decision she had made herself. Then my father got on the phone. His voice was colder. You made your sister look bad. Do you know how people are going to see our family now? That question almost made me laugh, not because it was funny, because after everything, he was still more worried about appearances than understanding why I had reached my limit. I calmly said, you're upset because I stopped fixing a problem I never created. Nobody responded. So I continued, for years, I helped because I loved you. I paid because I cared. I showed up because I thought family meant supporting each other. But family does not mean one person keeps giving while everyone else keeps taking. Rachel tried to argue, but her voice became quieter. For the first time, they weren't angry because I had hurt them, they were angry because they couldn't control me anymore, and that was the moment they realized they hadn't lost my money, they had lost the version of me who would always say yes. A few days later, Rachel asked if we could talk without anyone else involved. At first, I hesitated. Part of me was still hurt. Part of me wondered if she only wanted to talk because she needed something from me again, but I agreed. When we met at a small coffee shop near my apartment, Rachel looked different. She wasn't angry this time. She looked tired. I think I finally understand why you were upset, she said quietly. I didn't answer. She looked down at her coffee and admitted something I never expected to hear. I got used to you always helping. I stopped seeing it as something you chose to do and started seeing it as something you were supposed to do. That sentence stayed with me, because it was the first time she had actually acknowledged what happened. I told her I never minded helping her. I minded feeling like my love was measured by how much I could provide. She nodded. I'm sorry, she said. I should have asked. I shouldn't have expected. It wasn't a magical apology that fixed everything overnight. Trust doesn't rebuild that easily, but for the first time, we had an honest conversation, and I learned something important. Setting boundaries didn't mean I stopped loving my family. It meant I finally started respecting myself too. After that conversation with Rachel, things between us changed slowly. We weren't suddenly the perfect family. There were still uncomfortable moments, and there were still things we needed to work through. But something important had finally happened. I stopped carrying the responsibility of keeping everyone happy. For years, I thought saying no meant I was disappointing the people I loved. I thought being a good daughter and sister meant always putting myself last, but I learned that kindness without boundaries can slowly turn into resentment. I still celebrate my niece. I still care about my family. But I no longer allow guilt to decide what I do or who I become. The Sweet 16 party was never really about the $7,200. It was about the moment I realized my value was not determined by how much I could give. Sometimes the hardest word to say is no, but sometimes that one word is the beginning of finally choosing yourself.